The universe had seen conquests before. Empires rose and fell with the predictable rhythm of cosmic tides, except this time the tide was about to turn in a way no species had anticipated. The Galactic Dominion, a confederation of 17 superior species, had finally cornered humanity after a grueling 8-year conflict that left Earth's military forces decimated and their colonies in disarray. Or so they thought. Another victory for superior genetics, Supreme Chancellor Vrex announced to the Dominion Council, his 6 appendages waving in what passed for enthusiasm among the Chryslac species. His exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber's ambient lighting, polished to a shine that matched his inflated ego. The humans have submitted their unconditional surrender this morning. Their diplomatic delegation will arrive within the cycle to formalize terms. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of clicking mandibles, vibrating membranes, and whatever passed for applause among the motley collection of self-important species that comprised the Dominion's ruling body. 17 different evolutionary paths to sentience, and somehow they'd all arrived at the same destination. Insufferable smugness. Not a single being in that ornate chamber, with its gravity-defying architecture and ancestral symbols etched in precious metals from 1,000 worlds, questioned why humanity had chosen surrender now, after nearly a decade of brutal resistance. Not one of them asked why a species known for its suicidal determination had suddenly decided that living under alien rule was preferable to their usual go-down fighting approach that had made the war so costly. None except tactical analyst Zillith, whose gelatinous form quivered slightly at the edge of the chamber. Protocol dictated that the Morvellian remain silent during High Council proceedings, but the patterns rippling across her semi-transparent epidermis betrayed her concern to anyone bothering to look. Not that anyone was. The Dominion's leadership had long ago perfected the art of not seeing inconvenient details. The humans will make excellent servants, Admiral Cranach added, his feathered crest expanding in a display of dominance. Their physical resilience and adaptability will serve us well in environmental conditions unsuitable for more evolved species. This drew appreciative murmurs from the assemblage. The Tavi admiral had lost 3 battle groups to human guerrilla tactics, but conveniently omitted this from his assessment. Throughout the known galaxy, news of humanity's capitulation spread at quantum speeds. The Dominion's official narrative portrayed it as inevitable, the natural order reasserting itself after humanity's brief, amusing attempt to claim equality among the stars. Dominion citizens celebrated with the comfortable certainty of those who believe history has proven them right. On 17,000 worlds, glasses were raised, appendages were clasped, and pheromones of victory were released. The troublesome humans had finally learned their place in the cosmic hierarchy. What a shame no one thought to ask what humanity was planning next. The surrender ceremony took place aboard the Dominion flagship Indomitable Righteousness, a vessel whose name compensated for what its tactical systems lacked in actual indomitability. The human delegation arrived in a battered transport that had clearly seen better days, wearing what the Dominion Intelligence Corps had identified as formal attire, but which any human would recognize as slightly outdated business casual. They didn't even dress properly for their own subjugation, Sub-Commander Plex noted, the tendrils around his breathing apparatus curling in contempt. Typical primate disregard for protocol. Ambassador Riley Thornton, head of the human delegation, approached the ceremonial platform with a strange expression that the Dominion xenopsychologist had classified as resigned acceptance, but which humans would instantly recognize as trying not to laugh at an inside joke. On behalf of the United Earth Government and all human colonies, I hereby formally acknowledge our surrender to the Galactic Dominion, Thornton declared, voice steady despite the gravity of the occasion. We seek terms that will allow humanity to contribute productively to the greater galactic community. Supreme Chancellor Vrex raised all 6 appendages in the ritual posture of magnanimous victory, a gesture that looked to human eyes like an octopus having a mild seizure. Your species will be permitted to maintain limited self-governance under Dominion oversight, Vrex announced, his translator struggling to convey the proper degree of condescension. Humans will be integrated into appropriate service roles throughout Dominion society. Your military assets will be decommissioned, and your technological development will proceed only under Dominion supervision. We understand completely, Thornton replied, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Humanity accepts these terms and looks forward to learning our place in the greater galactic hierarchy. Several members of the human delegation nodded with expressions of such perfect submissiveness that it should have triggered alarm bells in any decent intelligence analyst's mind, but the Dominion leadership saw only what they expected to see: defeated primates accepting the natural order. Tactical analyst Zillith, monitoring from a secondary observation deck, noted how the humans maintained perfect composure throughout the ceremony. Not once did they display the emotional volatility their species was infamous for. Her gelatinous form rippled with unease as she documented this aberrant behavior, filing it under "requires further analysis," a category the Dominion's leadership had been systematically ignoring for decades. As the ceremony concluded, Ambassador Thornton made a curious request. "We would like to offer a traditional human gesture of respect to mark this historic occasion." The Dominion representatives exchanged glances, their universal translators struggling to convey the subtle undercurrents of suspicion and curiosity. "Proceed," Chancellor Vrex permitted, with the reckless confidence of someone who believed they had nothing to fear. Thornton reached into a diplomatic pouch and withdrew a small metallic object. "This is called a challenge coin. In our military tradition, these are exchanged as symbols of respect and shared experience between forces. We had these made to commemorate today." The coin, passed reverently to Chancellor Vrex, bore Earth's continents on one side and the Dominion symbol on the other. Around the edge was inscribed, "In remembrance of our first contact." "How quaint," Vrex commented, accepting the token with obvious condescension. "Your species' propensity for sentiment will serve you well in your new position." None of the Dominion representatives noticed the human delegation exchanging quick glances. None of them questioned why the inscription referred to first contact rather than surrender. And absolutely none of them thought to scan the seemingly harmless trinket for the quantum entangled communicator hidden within its atomic structure. The first seed had been planted, and the Dominion had watered it with their own hubris. Integration proceeded more smoothly than even the most optimistic Dominion projections had anticipated. Humans accepted positions throughout Dominion society with an enthusiasm that was interpreted as gratitude. They worked diligently, learned quickly, and maintained a demeanor that the Dominion sociologists described as admirably compliant. Within 6 standard months, humans could be found in service roles across 17 core worlds. Their adaptability proved useful in environments that caused discomfort to more evolved species. Their endurance made them ideal for labor-intensive tasks that automation couldn't quite master. Their cognitive flexibility, dismissed as primitive by Dominion scientists, allowed them to troubleshoot problems that more specialized alien minds overlooked. The Human Integration Program exceeds expectations, reported Cultural Assimilation Director Toon to the High Council. They adapt to instruction 37% faster than predicted and demonstrate exceptional retention of protocols. We recommend accelerated deployment to additional sectors. What Director Thune failed to mention, or perhaps failed to notice, was that humans weren't just learning Dominion protocols. They were learning Dominion weaknesses. On Zenithia Prime, human maintenance workers familiarized themselves with critical infrastructure systems. On the military hub world Creavor, human service personnel observed fleet movements and security rotations. In the vast bureaucratic complex of Administratum, human clerks processed data that gave them unprecedented insight into Dominion decision-making. Admiral Krynock, in a rare moment of insight, raised concerns during a closed council session. The humans are being integrated into positions that, while individually non-sensitive, collectively provide them with significant information about our operations. Chancellor Vrex dismissed this with a flick of his upper right appendage. They're merely servants handling mundane tasks. Besides, all critical systems remain restricted to Dominion species only. The Admiral's feathers ruffled slightly. "With respect, Chancellor, I've reviewed their war tactics. Humans excel at finding patterns and exploiting seemingly insignificant details." "Your concern is noted, Admiral," Vrex replied in the tone universally recognized as, "I'm acknowledging your comment solely to terminate this conversation. But our xenopsychologists assure me that humans have accepted their place. Their primitive social structures rely on clear hierarchies. They understand dominance when it's demonstrated. Elsewhere in the Dominion, cultural exchange programs, initially conceived as a one-way flow of Dominion values to human populations, were yielding unexpected results. Dominion citizens found themselves oddly drawn to human cultural products. Their music, their visual arts, their bizarre form of tension release called humor. It's primitive but oddly compelling, confessed Education Minister Frel during a private gathering, their photosensitive patches darkening with embarrassment. I've been listening to something they call jazz. The disharmony should be repulsive, but there's a strange mathematical beauty to it. Across 17 worlds, similar conversations were taking place in private. Dominion citizens sampling human cuisine despite official warnings about digestive incompatibility. Dominion youth adopting human linguistic expressions. Dominion scientists finding unexpected elegance in human technological solutions that achieved comparable results with fewer resources. Human culture wasn't just being tolerated, it was spreading like a benign infection, rewriting the cultural DNA of the Dominion one seemingly harmless exchange at a time. Meanwhile, in the experimental weapons laboratory on Crevor, a human technician named Miguel Torres was explaining a more efficient calibration procedure to his Dominion supervisor. The supervisor, impressed by the 23% energy consumption reduction, failed to notice that the new calibration parameters also introduced a subtle vulnerability in the targeting systems, one that would only become apparent under very specific battle conditions. Across the Dominion, thousands of such improvements were being implemented daily. The first notable incident occurred 14 months after the surrender ceremony. The Dominion defense grid protecting the mineral-rich Taurian sector experienced a 3-minute outage. System diagnostics revealed no cause, and the disruption was dismissed as a random fluctuation in the quantum stabilizer. 2 weeks later, the secure communications network linking the Dominion's military command structure suffered unexplained data corruption that required a full system restart. The incident was attributed to a cosmic radiation surge, despite the network's supposed immunity to such phenomena. These failures are occurring with statistically improbable frequency, tactical analyst Zilith reported to her superior, Strategic Command Executive Vox. Particularly in systems that have undergone human-suggested modifications. Correlation is not causation, Executive Vox replied dismissively. The integration of human personnel has increased overall system efficiency by 32%. These minor disruptions are an acceptable trade-off. Zilith's epidermis rippled with suppressed frustration. With respect, these are not random systems experiencing failures. They form a pattern that suggests you're allowing primitive human suspicion to influence your analysis, Vox interrupted. The humans lack both the technological sophistication and the organizational capacity to orchestrate such a conspiracy. Remember your evolutionary advantages, analyst Zilith. Throughout the Dominion, similar conversations were being quietly suppressed. A Tavi security officer who noticed humans gathering in unusually regular patterns was reassigned to a remote outpost. A Kreslak administrator who questioned the need for human personnel in communication hubs was reminded that his job performance metrics depended on successful integration outcomes. Meanwhile, in the orbital shipyards above Zenithia Prime, human engineer Ravi Mehta was explaining to his Dominion supervisors why the new power distribution system he designed was 40% more efficient than the previous model. None of the supervisors understood enough about human engineering principles to recognize that the design also created a master override accessible from any maintenance terminal, one that used human biometric signatures as authorization. On a ministratum, human cultural liaison Fatma Okoro was delivering a presentation on human organizational psychology to a committee of Dominion administrators. Humans respond best to clear, transparent communication channels, she explained. Our research suggests implementing a more integrated feedback system would improve human productivity by at least 27%. The committee approved her recommendation unanimously, failing to realize they were authorizing a communications infrastructure that would give humans unprecedented access to Dominion information flows. Not a single committee member questioned why improving human productivity required changes to systems far beyond human operational areas. In the diplomatic quarter of the Dominion capital, Ambassador Thornton was hosting a reception for mid-level Dominion officials. "To improve understanding between our peoples," he toasted, raising a glass of synthesized earth wine, specially formulated to be safely consumed by multiple species. The Dominion officials raised their glasses in return. completely unaware that they were participating in a human military tradition dating back centuries, drinking with the enemy to assess their weaknesses and openness to manipulation. As the gathering proceeded, humans circulated with perfect diplomatic poise, engaging Dominion officials in seemingly casual conversations that masterfully extracted information about interspecies tensions, political rivalries, and personal ambitions, all valuable leverage points in the strategy unfolding across 17 worlds. By the 18th month after surrender, humans had been integrated into every non-critical system across the Dominion. They maintained environmental controls, managed supply chains, facilitated communications, and provided support services that kept the massive interstellar government functioning. Their positions were individually humble but collectively vital, like the neurons in a vast brain or the circuitry in a complex computer. Human integration has reached optimal saturation, reported Director Thune to the High Council. They now comprise approximately 8% of the Dominion's total workforce, primarily in support roles that free higher Dominion species for more important duties. What the report failed to mention was that this 8% included positions in 92% of the systems necessary for Dominion functionality. Humans weren't controlling any critical systems, they were simply positioned to affect all of them simultaneously. On the contested border world of Nexus 7th, tensions between the Dominion and the rival Concordiat alliance were reaching a breaking point. Both powers claimed the strategic planet, with its valuable position controlling 3 major hyperspace lanes. After months of diplomatic posturing, the Concordiat deployed a battle fleet to the system, a clear provocation requiring Dominion response. The High Council convened an emergency session, with Admiral Cranach presenting the military options. "We can dispatch the 4th Fleet immediately. Our forces can secure the system within 30 hours. Supreme Chancellor Vrex nodded his upper torso in the Krislak gesture of approval. "Prepare the fleet. We will demonstrate the consequences of challenging Dominion authority." The order was transmitted through 17 communication relays, each operated by perfectly efficient human technicians. The 4th Fleet, pride of the Dominion Navy, began preparations for immediate deployment. 6 hours later, as the fleet was completing pre-jump procedures, critical systems across the Dominion began experiencing unexplained technical difficulties. On Zenithia Prime, the Central Power Distribution Network initiated an emergency shutdown sequence, citing catastrophic failure risks that subsequent investigation would find no evidence of. On Administratum, the Central Data Cores began a security purge protocol, freezing all high-level clearance access for the mandatory 72-hour verification period, dictated by regulations that no one remembered implementing. On Crevor, the military command and control systems suffered a synchronization failure that rendered fleet coordination impossible. Across 17 core worlds, similar coincidental failures occurred simultaneously, none critical enough to trigger emergency protocols individually, but collectively paralyzing the Dominion's ability to function. In the High Council chamber, chaos erupted as reports flooded in from across Dominion space. Chancellor Vrex's exoskeleton rattled with agitation as he demanded explanations. "We're experiencing a coordinated systems failure," reported the emergency response coordinator, her voice trembling. "Cause unknown. Estimated time to restoration, minimum 48 hours. "Impossible!" Admiral Cranach's feathers stood fully erect in alarm. "Our systems have redundancies." Tactical analyst Zelith, summoned to the emergency session, allowed her gelatinous form to pulse once with the Morbellian equivalent of vindication. The redundancies all underwent efficiency upgrades in the past year, upgrades suggested and implemented with human assistance. A terrible silence fell over the council chamber as realization dawned. "Get me Ambassador Thornton," Chancellor Vrex demanded. "Now!" Ambassador Thornton arrived at the High Council chamber with unhurried confidence, still wearing the same polite, slightly deferential expression he'd maintained since the surrender ceremony. Nothing in his demeanor acknowledged the chaos erupting throughout Dominion space. "You summoned me, Chancellor?" he inquired with perfect composure. Chancellor Vrex's exoskeleton vibrated with barely controlled rage. "What have you done, Chancellor?" Thornton's expression of mild confusion was so perfectly executed it could have won awards in human theatrical circles. "I'm afraid I don't understand. Has something happened?" Admiral Cranach slammed a feathered appendage on the council table. "The systems are failing across the Dominion. Systems your people have been improving for months." "That's concerning," Thornton replied with what appeared to be genuine worry. "How can we assist? Our technical personnel are at your disposal as always." "Your technical personnel are the problem," Vrek's translator struggled to modulate his volume. This is an act of war. Thornton's expression shifted to one of genuine surprise, the first authentic emotion he displayed since the surrender. Chancellor, with all due respect, war requires military action. We surrendered our military capabilities as agreed. The human fleet was decommissioned, our weapons surrendered. We've complied with every term of our surrender. Then explain these coordinated failures. Coordinated? Thornton shook his head. Chancellor, I can assure you, there's been no coordination. Perhaps there's been a cascading system failure? I understand your engineers implemented many of our efficiency suggestions simultaneously across multiple systems. Without proper integration testing, such implementations can sometimes have unexpected interactions. The pure technical plausibility of this explanation caused several council members to exchange uncertain glances. We can help resolve these issues, Thornton continued smoothly. Our technical teams are familiar with the systems in question. With your permission, they could begin work immediately. The horrifying realization dawned on the council. They needed human assistance to restore functionality. The Dominion's own specialists had become too dependent on human support staff to manage the improved systems. This was your plan all along, Tactilist Zelith stated, her gelatinous form now pulsing with the patterns that indicated highest-order cognitive processing. Not a military victory, but infiltration. Thornton turned to the Morvellian with what appeared to be genuine respect. Analyst Zelith, isn't it? Your reports on human tactical patterns were remarkably insightful. It's unfortunate they were consistently disregarded. He turned back to address the entire council. The Concordiate fleet will secure Nexus 7 within the next 12 hours. Without your fourth fleet to contest them, they'll establish a permanent presence. This will give them control of the hyperspace lanes, effectively cutting your territory in half. You're working with the Concordiate. Admiral Crannock's feathers flattened in shock. Not at all, Thornton replied. We have no formal relationship with the Concordiate. They simply recognized an opportunity when your border defenses began experiencing maintenance issues. What do you want? Chancellor Vrex demanded, his appendages now hanging limply in the chrysalec posture of defeat. Want? We've already achieved our primary objective, Thorne explained with the patient tone of a teacher addressing slow students. Humanity is now integrated into every support system across your 17 worlds. We're not controlling your civilization, we're maintaining it. You literally cannot function without us. The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. We could purge all humans from our systems, someone finally suggested. Thornton smiled politely. You could try, but consider this. We've spent 18 months becoming essential to your operations, while learning every detail of your systems. You've spent those same 18 months becoming dependent on us, while forgetting how your own infrastructure works. He let that sink in before continuing. Additionally, we've made ourselves quite popular with your general population. Did you know that approval ratings for human integration programs are at 89% across all Dominion demographics? Your citizens enjoy our cuisine, our entertainment, even our company. How would they react to a sudden purge of their favorite humans? This is conquest, Admiral Crannock whispered. We prefer to call it aggressive negotiation, Thornton replied. Now, shall we discuss new terms? Or would you prefer to explain to your citizens why basic services are failing across 17 worlds? The Galactic Dominion didn't fall, at least not in the traditional sense of conquest. There was no regime change, no occupation, no formal transfer of power. Chancellor Vrex remained Chancellor, the Council continued to meet, and official Dominion policy remained officially Dominion policy. But everything had changed. The new Dominion Human Cooperative Agreement acknowledged humanity's special advisory role in Dominion governance. Human representatives were added to every major governmental body to facilitate communication and understanding. Trade restrictions were lifted, allowing human businesses to operate throughout Dominion space. To the average Dominion citizen, these changes were barely noticeable, just a natural evolution of the integration process that had been proceeding smoothly for nearly 2 years. Human cultural influences that had been gradually seeping into Dominion society were now officially recognized and celebrated as valuable contributions to galactic diversity. In military circles, the changes were more pronounced but equally inevitable. Human tactical advisors were assigned to fleet commands to enhance operational efficiency. Human engineers received unprecedented access to Dominion technology to ensure compatibility of integrated systems. Human diplomatic personnel participated in all negotiations with rival powers to provide alternative perspectives. Within 5 years, humanity had achieved what would have been impossible through conventional warfare. They had transformed themselves from a defeated species into an indispensable partner, with influence extending into every aspect of Dominion functionality. "It's not about controlling the ship," Ambassador Thornton explained to a newly arrived human diplomatic trainee. "It's about making yourself essential to the navigation system." On Administratum, the Dominion Central Archives were updated with a new official history of human integration, one that carefully reframed the surrender as the beginning of a mutually beneficial partnership. Future generations of Dominion citizens would learn that the wise leadership had recognized humanity's potential contribution and magnanimously invited them to join galactic society. No mention would be made of the 18-month infiltration operation that had placed humans in positions to render the entire Dominion helpless with the push of a button. No records would acknowledge the strategic placement of human personnel throughout critical infrastructure. The careful manipulation of Dominion culture to create acceptance and dependence would be recast as natural cultural exchange. In the privacy of human diplomatic enclaves, this strategy had a name: the subscription model. Don't sell someone a product once, make them subscribe to a service they can't live without. The universe had indeed seen conquests before. Empires had risen and fallen with the predictable rhythm of cosmic tides. But humanity had invented something new: conquest without a shot fired, domination through indispensability, victory through surrender. In a private meeting room on Zenithia Prime, tactical analyst Zilith, now promoted to strategic foresight director, met with Ambassador Thornton for what had become a regular consultation. "Your species," she observed, her gelatinous form rippling with complex cognitive patterns, "never intended to win the war conventionally." "Wars are inefficient," Thornton replied with a casual shrug. "They destroy the very resources you're fighting over." "The surrender was always part of the plan," Zilith continued. "You needed to be inside our systems, not destroying them from outside." "History is full of examples," Thornton noted. "The most successful conquests often begin with apparent defeat. It's just that most species lack the patience to see the strategy through." Zilith's form pulsed with what humans had learned to recognize as Morvellian amusement. "And now, you're too integrated to remove without the Dominion collapsing." "We prefer the term valued partners," Thornton corrected with a smile. "It sounds so much better in the historical archives, don't you think?" Outside the meeting room, life continued across 17 worlds. Dominion citizens went about their daily routines, enjoying the improved efficiency of systems maintained by their helpful human associates. Dominion officials implemented policies shaped by their insightful human advisors. Dominion military vessels patrolled their borders, secure in tactical advantages developed by their innovative human strategists. Not one of them perceived themselves as conquered. That was the true genius of the human strategy. The most effective prison is one where the inmates believe they have the keys. Somewhere in the vastness of space, the Concordiate Alliance was about to discover just how dangerous human cooperation could be. Their diplomatic corps had recently accepted a human delegation seeking asylum after escaping Dominion oppression. The cycle was beginning again. The universe had seen conquests before, but never quite like this. Decades later, historians would call it the Silent Conquest, humanity's masterpiece of strategic infiltration. Not a single shot fired, not a single world bombed, yet 17 civilizations now danced to humanity's subtle tune without ever realizing the music had changed. The Galactic Dominion continued to believe itself the premier power in the quadrant. Its citizens proudly proclaimed their evolutionary superiority, while unconsciously adopting human customs, human solutions, human ways of thinking. Its leaders issued grand proclamations from their ornate chambers, blissfully unaware that every word was shaped by human advisors who had made themselves indispensable. Throughout the stars, similar patterns played out as humanity expanded their subscription model of conquest. The Concordiate Alliance, the Vega Protectorate, the Orion Collective, all welcomed human refugees, human advisors, human efficiency experts. All failed to notice the pattern until it was too late. The most devastating weapon in humanity's arsenal had never been their ships or their guns. It had been their ability to become essential, to transform defeat into opportunity, to win by appearing to lose. After all, why conquer what you can simply subscribe?